All right, welcome everyone to our online live class session for week 3 of our entertainment market research class. This is Daniel Sandin, your instructor. We are recording this session tonight in order to make the recording available to those who could not join us live. And here is our agenda for tonight. We will review the course overview again very quickly, especially in the context of this week's topics and concepts. We will take a little bit deeper dive into the week 3 topics and concepts. We'll talk about the discussion topic for this week and my expectations for the discussion. We'll look at the week 3 assignment or project. And oh, by the way, while we're talking about the assignment or project for week 3, I am going to talk about the bonus material for this week. So stay tuned for that. And then I'll summarize all the week 3 deliverables. We'll answer questions if there are any. And I will leave you with my contact information at the end so you remember how to contact me if you do have questions. All right, so here's the overview of our course. As you know, weeks 1 and 2 are behind us now. We're halfway done with the course, and week 3 is before us. And week 3 is about how content is used for development. And here's what we mean by that. There's lots of entertainment content that has been developed in the past. Movies, TV shows, music, games, okay? Lots and lots of content in entertainment has been developed in the past. And some of it has been very successful and some of it has not been so. And so this is about how we can use what we learned from previous content to develop new and better and more successful content, okay? Take the learnings that we have from the past, apply them now, and create better stuff for the future. That's what week 3 is about, and how we use, the data, the research that we've gathered about that past content, and learned from in order to do better going forward. So that's week 3, kind of in a nutshell. Just by way of reminder, here in week 3, 25% of your total course grade is up for grabs, just like in every other week. So here's our topics and concepts for this week, and these are based on the readings that are in the Read and View section for this week. The first one is from the Webster textbook. That textbook is called Ratings Analysis. This is chapter 8. It's called Audience Research in Programming. Programming is, developing like TV programming, for instance, or radio programming. This is about audience research and how it's done in terms of creating new programs and new content. I will talk about this chapter again later when we talk about the bonus information. So I'm just sort of alerting you now that we're going to come back to this. And then in the S-Gate textbook, we've assigned chapters 3 through 10. Now, these are relatively short chapters, so don't get freaked out by all these chapters that are assigned here. They're relatively quick and easy, but we wanted to give you a feel for all kinds of different areas of the entertainment industry and how we, create, how we develop for that. And so the first one is on marketing movies, and it's building wanna see, have to see, etc. Okay, the next one, the business of broadcasting. It's about network TV and radio, okay, sort of traditional media. The next one, the rising tide of technology, TV content delivery, and we all know how that's changing from scheduled network TV to on-demand streaming type TV, okay? So, and then the next one is sort of similar, digital disruption, how so many areas of entertainment are moving to, digital platforms. And then publishing, and here's a good example of one that's moving to a digital platform. It's called The Printed Word Goes Digital, all right? The next one, a handful of content. This is about handheld content, so games and mobile apps. This is stuff that's playing on your handheld devices, your smartphone, your tablet, etc., okay? And then the next one is the universal language, which is music. And finally, major leagues, major money is all about sports. So those give you a feel for the development work that's done and the marketing of these different areas of the entertainment industry. And then finally, there's an article here by a company called Accenture, which is one of the big consulting firms that works with a lot of big companies and industries and looks at sort of the future. And so here's an article by them that says, "The eyes have it. Guess who controls the future of TV?" Okay, so here's what we're looking at is the the creating of content by learning from previous content that's been done to do a better job of creating new content. So let's talk about our discussion. Let me go out and get a better copy of this. Here's our discussion for week 3. It's called Hit Making Formula. And by way of overview, it says, audience metrics and research information from previous entertainment projects, movies, songs, games, etc., can be used to help evaluate whether new projects will succeed or not. This week, we will explore how technology and the use of audience metrics can influence creative content decisions in the entertainment business. So, for your initial post, you will first read this short article from the New York Times called Solving Equation of a Hit Film Script with Data, from a few years ago, but still very, very relevant today. And then it says, share your thoughts on some of the questions below. Now, we have 6 questions listed here, and we want you to share your thoughts on at least 2 of these. You can answer more of them if you like, but you should at least choose 2 of them and answer them thoroughly enough that you've explained yourself. It should be about a paragraph for each question. So when you pick 2 paragraphs, your initial post should be about 2 paragraphs long. All right? The first one, what do you think are some of the most important ideas presented in the article? Next, what do you agree with the author about and why? Next, what do you disagree with them about and why? Next, based on this article, what would you like to understand more about regarding the use of audience metrics and research data in the creation of entertainment products? Next, what steps might you take based on the information in the article? How could it affect your career or your life? And then finally, what other videos, websites, or resources have you seen on this topic or can you find and recommend? Okay, and then it says, please include links to those you list. And then there's a note here that says, research is not required, but if you do represent the thoughts, ideas, words, or images of others, be sure to give credit and cite your sources by indicating the author, date, title, and a website link where the information was found. All right, so that's your initial post. It's due by Wednesday night. And then for your response post, which is due by Sunday, there's only 1 required, but you really should do it. We want you to go beyond, I agree with you and here's why, or that's great and here's why, or good post and here's why. All right, that's a good start to your response, but it's not enough. So do that, but also use the RISE model to take the conversation and the discussion to the next level, to a higher level, by introducing a new idea or a new thought, or suggesting a different way of thinking about the topic, or asking an open-ended question that asks sort of what do you think about this next idea? What do you think about this new topic, this new idea about what we've been talking about? Okay, take it beyond what you both have already said and take it to where the conversation should go next, okay, by elevating it using the RISE model. So link to risemodel.com there if you need a refresher on the RISE model. All right, that's what we're looking for on the discussion. Let's go back to our outline here and talk about the project. Let me go out and get the project. And project 3 is called Content and Business Decisions. And by way of overview, it says, developing winning content is a primary goal for many studios, music labels, producers, and other entertainment creators. How can these creators decide what content wins and what needs further development? How can creators learn from the results and research from past projects to create better content in the future? For this project, you will study a major motion picture to find and analyze metrics and audience research information, and then draw conclusions about how audience metrics can be used to make decisions about future entertainment product content. What you'll need, as is typical, is your laptop. You'll need the internet, and you'll need either Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or Apple Keynote. Here's what you're going to prepare. It says, in this assignment, you will be analyzing the 2013 film The Lone Ranger, produced by Walt Disney Pictures and Jerry Bruckheimer Films, directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer. The project was estimated to cost $275 million to make and reported to have earned an estimated $89 million in domestic box office. Number one, to begin your research, consider the metrics and other information in the following suggested articles. Okay, and we've given you 6 articles here to start your research. This is not the end of your research. This shouldn't be all your research. You should do research beyond these, but this is a good start for you to understand some of the numbers behind the Lone Ranger movie and some of the issues around the making of that movie. Okay, the making and probably marketing of that movie. So there's an article from a website called The Numbers, and the next one is an article from Business Insider. The next one is from The Hollywood Reporter, followed by the LA Times, and then The Vulture, and then finally from Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so 6 articles here about this movie that'll give you a good foundation to start you off, but it's not enough. You need to do some additional research here. So number 2 here says, conduct your own research into the metrics and other information about this film. Include references for your research sources and all outside information that you use for this assignment. And so here's what we want you to create. You can create either a 3 to 5 page written report in Microsoft Word, or create a 3 to 5 minute Keynote or PowerPoint presentation. For Keynote or PowerPoint submissions, include either written presenter notes or recorded audio narration. Okay. A guideline, it says a 3 to 5 minute presentation would typically contain 5 to 10 slides, including a title slide and a references slide. Let me just say to you, if you create one of these presentations, you must include detailed written presenter notes aside from your slides, or in addition to your slides, or you must record your own voice narrating our way through the slides and submit that recording. Okay, so if you do not just submit presentation slides, that's not enough. If you don't want to do the detailed presenter notes or the audio narration, then write the paper instead. Don't do the slides at all. Okay, so this is your choice. Write a paper or do a presentation that includes detailed presenter notes or recorded audio narration. Present your findings and conclusions to address the following points. Sorry for the dogs barking. What were the overall financial results of the movie? Now, as I said before, we've given you a start on this. We gave you a couple of data points on this, but it's really not the whole story. So you're going to have to find bigger, more complete overall financial results of the movie and report that here, including all revenue sources and overall costs. Okay. Next, what other audience metrics or research information do you feel is relevant to your analysis of the success or failure of this project, and why? Okay, so this question isn't asking you whether this movie was a success or a failure. It's asking about your analysis of this movie's either success or failure. Okay, and what other inputs, what other audience metrics or research information you feel is relevant as you consider whether this movie was a success or a failure. So number 3, then we do ask you, okay, so now do you feel this film was a success or a failure, and what are your reasons for your conclusions? So your reasoning for whether this movie was a success or a failure should, at least in part, be based on the information you identified in question 2 that's important to your analysis of whether the movie is a success or a failure. Okay, so tie your answer to number 3 back to number 2 and the criteria that you use to determine the success or failure of a project like this. All right. Number 4, how could the producers have used audience metrics and research information to help make decisions about the content and marketing of this film? Okay, so how could they have used other audience metrics and research information that would have been helpful to them to make decisions, maybe better decisions, about the content of the film and about its marketing? And finally, considering your research into the metrics of this film project, how do you think audience metrics and research data can be used to make content decisions about other movies and other entertainment content in general? So this last question is kind of a more broad question, thinking beyond just this film. We want you to think about how you could use audience metrics and research information to make content decisions about other entertainment content. All right. Save and submit your project as you normally would. And if you have any trouble with that, let me know. Sometimes people have trouble with Keynote and PowerPoint and getting it to upload, especially if it's recorded. Getting it to upload, you may need to compress it before you upload it. That's typically not the case. I haven't seen people have a lot of trouble with that, but occasionally you may need to do that. So there's a little hint for you. All right, I hope that's helpful to you. Before we leave the project, I want to offer you an opportunity to earn some bonus points here in week 3. So we go back to one of our readings, which I identified earlier, Chapter 8 of the Ratings Analysis textbook, which is one of your assigned readings for this week. There's a table in there called Table 8.1, and I'll show you what it looks like here. Here it is. It's not labeled, but this is Table 8.1 from the book. And there's 2 kind of tables going on here. The left table has 2 columns. There's a radio format type. The first one here is adult contemporary, okay? And there's something called CUME, and this CUME is the total cumulative audience for the week, okay? So this is from a week in the fall of 2010, so several years ago. But this was the cumulative audience across the country for adult contemporary radio, and it's 76 million listeners, all right? The next one down is Pop CHR. That's another radio format, and the cumulative weekly audience for that was 68 million and some, okay? The next one is country, or new country stations. And the cumulative weekly audience for that was 65.5 million. Okay, going down to the next one, news, talk, and information. 58 million cumulative audience over the week. All right, and so on down the line. And so there's a whole list here of different radio formats and their audiences. And the list goes from the biggest audience, cumulative weekly audience, to the smallest cumulative weekly audience, which you can see at the bottom here, is Spanish adult hits, okay, at 8 million and some. Now, on the right side, the table here is really kind of 3 columns. The first one is, again, these different radio formats, okay. These are not in the same order, even though the first one is the same. These are not in the same order as the left table. So you can see that, and this is a breakout of the listeners to these different radio formats. So for adult contemporary radio, it's 63% of the listeners, the cumulative listeners, are women, and 37% are men, okay? The next one down the list here is contemporary Christian radio format. And 62% of that audience is women and 38% is men. Okay, followed by hot adult contemporary, and it's the same setup: 62% women, 38% men. So this side, the right side table, is in order of the highest percentage of women, and the formats go down to the lowest percentage of women at the bottom. So all sports format is only 16% women, and it's 84% men. Okay, so if you think about this side of the table, the bottom is the highest percentage of men going up from there. So the highest percentage of men is for all sports. The next highest percentage of men is album-oriented rock, followed by active rock, and then classic rock, and so on and so on. Okay. So I wanted to give you an idea of what's going on in this table, and then I'm going to give you some questions about it. So the first question is, name the top 3 radio formats among women, and that is the highest percentage of women listening. So I just showed you that. You'll see that the right side of the table, the top of that, the table on the right, are the top formats among women, right? And then number 2 says, name the top 3 radio formats among men. Well, I showed you that the bottom of that list is the top 3, is the top formats among men, right? Because it's the lowest formats among women. So number 1 and 2 are just straight from that, the top 3 really, and the bottom 3 from that table. Number 3, identify which format appeals to more women, either religious or active rock. Okay, now you're going to have to do some math to do this. So you will find the religious format, you'll find the total audience for religious format, and you'll find the percentage of that audience that's female. Okay, if you take that percentage and multiply by the total audience, you'll get the number of women that listen to religious radio. Do the same for active rock. The total audience times the percentage of that audience that's female, and you'll get a number that's fairly close to the religious number, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 million and some for both. But what I want you to tell me is which one's higher. The total number of females who listen to religious radio, or the total number of females who listen to active rock radio. Number 4 is a similar question. Identify which format appeals to more men in total number of male listeners, either adult contemporary or classic rock. So you're going to have to do the math again. Find the total audience for adult contemporary. We looked at that already. It was the first one on the list. The total audience was 76 million and some, right? But the percentage of male listeners to that adult contemporary was something like 37%. So if you multiply that total audience, 76 million, times 37%, you will get a number of males who listen to adult contemporary. Okay, and I'll give you a hint, it's going to be in the neighborhood of 27 or 28 million. Okay, and then do the same for classic rock. Find the total audience for classic rock, find the total percent of that audience that's men, multiply those two numbers, and you will get the total number of male listeners to classic rock, which is going to, again, be somewhere in the 27 to 28 million range. Okay, but I want you to tell me, do more male listeners listen to adult contemporary in total or classic rock? The percentages are pretty different, but the total number of male listeners is very similar. So tell me which one has more male listeners. Finally, number 5, how many women listen to the oldies format? Okay, this one's much more straightforward. You still have to do the math, but you're only concerned about the oldies format. So go to the list, find the oldies format, find the total audience for that format, and then multiply that by the percent of that audience that's female, and what you get is a total number of female listeners to the oldies format, and just tell me what that number is, okay? But you have to run that math to do it. All right, if you answer those completely and accurately, I will add up to 7 points to your score on the project. And so you could go from a B to an A or from a C to a B, okay? And so it's worth it to take this table, run these numbers, put it on your last slide of your presentation if you're doing a presentation, or put it at the end of your paper if you're writing the paper. Put bonus points, answer these questions, and to the extent that you answer them completely and accurately, I will add up to 7 points to your total score. I hope you find that helpful. Just trying to, sort of help everybody out to maximize their score on the project. All right, so here's our summary of the deliverables for week 3. The first one is just a reminder to make sure you read all the content we put together for you and watch the videos. So the Webster textbook, chapter 8, the S-Gate textbook, chapters 3 through 10, which are very short. The Accenture paper we talked about, there's a few videos listed there. And this week only, there's no recorded lecture for week 3. So that's an exception for this week. There have been lectures, recorded lectures for the previous 2 weeks, but not for this one. So the discussion posts on the hit-making formula, first one is due by Wednesday night before midnight. The second one by Sunday night before midnight. The assignment or the project here on content and business decisions, specifically concerning the Lone Ranger movie. That's due by Sunday night before midnight. And don't forget to add your answers to the bonus questions to try to maximize your score on this assignment or this project. And then finally, there is a quiz here in week 3. It's due by Sunday night before midnight. Let me just say something about these due dates. You may have heard that there's a new late policy going into effect here in 2018. And it's stricter than the previous policy. And so, if you get your initial post in by Wednesday night, you have the opportunity to earn all the points available on that initial post. If it's late, every day that it's late, we subtract points, okay? On your second post, your response post cannot be late. You can't submit it after the due date. We won't accept it after the due date, so make sure you get it in by Sunday night or before that if possible. Your assignment, same thing. If it's late, we deduct points. There's a limit to how late we'll take them now, and it's much less than we used to accept. So be aware that late work is going to get deducted, and at some point we're not going to accept it anymore. So be sure to get those in on time in order to give yourself the most opportunity to earn your points, okay? All right, so I hope that's helpful. There is a cautionary note here. If you've taken this class before, you're taking it again, please do not submit your previous work for this month's work. You have to submit new stuff or substantially change, adjust, and improve and correct previous work in order to submit it for this class. If you have any questions about this, make sure you ask me. And here's how to get a hold of me. My email address is here, my office phone. You can message me on the LAO platform. Now, it says here that I have office hours and what they are. We're sort of de-emphasizing office hours now in 2018. And what I'll say to you is I'm often available during these times anyway, but also that, I want to be available to you when you and I are both available. Okay. So, contact me. Let's make an appointment. Let's, get on the phone or Skype or go to training or whatever we need to do, get your questions answered and get you on your way to a successful week 3. All right. All right. So that'll do it. Thank you for attending this session, either here live or by way of the recording. And my best to you as you work through the week 3 learning activities. Good night.